Hey guys. Tonight we're slipping back through time into the cracked cobblestone heart of ancient Rome. The air is thick with rosemary smoke and the smell of warm brick. Laundry flaps overhead between crumbling apartments. Someone is shouting about olives. Again, you're walking slowly, barefoot for now, over the dusty floor of your rented insula flat. One hand bracing yourself against the cool, flaky plaster of the wall as you rise from your straw mattress. Your calves ache. You didn't do anything yesterday. But somehow Rome makes you tired just by being near it. Down in the street, you hear the clatter of a clay pot breaking, followed by a string of curse words that are both impressively creative and historically accurate. Somewhere nearby, a baby wails, a dog answers, and a door slams. It's morning in the capital of the world. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I love knowing where in the world we're dreaming together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You rub your eyes, scratch at your scalp under the scratchy linen of your nightcap, and step onto the uneven clay tiles that serve as both your floor and your first daily hazard. Cold, so cold, the kind of cold that instantly sends regret crawling up your shins. You mutter something about needing to invent socks and make your way to the wooden window shutter, creaking it open just enough to let in a slice of dusty light. Rome greets you with a wink of gold off a tiled roof and the sound of two boys bickering over a dead rat. Ah, civilization. From your modest fourth-floor apartment, a creaky, crooked space in a multi-story insula, you can see rooftops stretching like terracotta waves. Smoke coils from chimneys, pigeons plot. Someone on the next rooftop is already airing their laundry, and it sways with an elegance your joints currently lack. You smell breakfast, mostly burnt bread, maybe lentils, or maybe just hope. Let's be clear. Your apartment isn't exactly luxury. The wooden beams in the ceiling groan like they're tired of your existence. And the walls are thin enough to hear your neighbor sneeze in his sleep. There's no running water, no private toilet, no kitchen, just a shared staircase so steep and narrow that it's actively plotting your demise. And you pay for this. Not a lot, but still. The Roman insulae, the multi-family apartment blocks, were feats of both ingenuity and hazard. The higher you lived, the cheaper the rent, and the worse your odds of surviving a fire. Scholars still argue whether some of these buildings reached as high as 7 stories. But what's certain is that their construction standards were, let's say, flexible. Brick on the bottom, wood on top. That explains the annual Inferno festival that was the Roman summer. You head for the shared latrine downstairs. Or you think about it. But honestly, it's early. And the neighbors are always there in the morning having those strange eye contact conversations across the bench-style toilet. You sigh and pull out your trusty chamber pot instead, yes. The same one you swore you'd empty yesterday. Its sour perfume greets you like an old, unpleasant friend. Rome stirs around you. A living, groaning beast. It doesn't hum, it growls. And yet it has its charm. Pigeons coo in chorus like feathered gossipers. And the smell of freshly ground grain from the bakery below slides in through the shutters. That bakery, by the way, is part of a large-scale operation. Rome had industrial bakeries, with mills powered by donkeys or even slaves walking in circles all day long. You didn't bake your own bread unless you were rich, or suspiciously enthusiastic about self-suffering. As you stretch, your joints crack like tiny amphorae breaking. Your right knee complains. Your left foot is numb from how you slept. And your back wants to unionize. Still, you're alive. You're in the heart of Rome. You're probably already late for something. But don't worry, no one else is on time either. The morning chill seeps in through the cracked walls and sits on your shoulders like a judgmental cat. You throw on your tunic, which feels like it was designed by someone who hated softness. It itches. It chafes. It smells faintly of sweat, oil, and last week, linen, unbleached. A single, simple rectangle of fabric belted at the waist. It rides up when you walk too fast and bunches unhelpfully when you sit. But it's what everyone wears. Unless you're rich, or pretending to be. The streets below come alive. From your window, you can see a man wheeling a cart of garum, yes. That fermented fish sauce the Romans loved so much it might have qualified as a love language. His face is permanently crinkled in a look of regret. He's followed closely by a child trying to sell yesterday's figs and a one-eyed cat with far too much confidence. In the alley, water from someone's washing basin sloshes downhill in a little grimy river. It soaks your sandals as soon as you step outside. You flinch, and your toes curl. The water is cold and probably haunted. A neighbor nods at you. You nod back. As is tradition, he's wearing the same tunic as you, only slightly more threadbare. The two of you exchange the silent, universal look of city dwellers everywhere. Yep, still here. The stairwell to the ground floor is a place of mystery and danger. It's dark. It smells like wood smoke, damp wool, and boiled cabbage. A rat dashes past your foot. You pretend you didn't see it. That's the deal here. You don't see it. And it doesn't ask for rent. When you finally emerge onto the street, the city is mid-gallop. The sounds wrap around you, street vendors yelling about olives and onions. The clack of mule hooves on stone. The distant ring of a blacksmith's hammer. You're suddenly aware of how sore your shoulders are. Yesterday's labor? Or just the weight of surviving? Hard to say. The warmth of the rising sun catches your face and makes you squint. It's a good feeling. Familiar, like a friend tapping your cheek. But it's not enough to chase away the ever-present Rome smell. Something between wet limestone, sweat, animal waste, and hope. Always hope. And just as you start to appreciate the view, Rome unfurling before you in layers of smoke, color, and sound, your stomach growls like a wounded centurion. Time for breakfast, or at least the Roman idea of one. But that's a journey in itself. You trudge down the slope of the narrow alley, sandals slapping against the damp flagstones like a half-hearted drumbeat. The buildings lean in around you, their upper floors teetering overhead like nosy neighbors gossiping across a shared laundry line. Every step feels like a calculated risk, between slipping on fish guts and getting knocked over by a donkey cart. And all the while, your tunic rubs against your ribs with the gentle persistence of sandpaper. Welcome to breakfast, or, more accurately, the pre-breakfast scramble. Romans didn't eat like modern folks do. Breakfast, jentaculum, was usually a humble affair. Maybe a crust of yesterday's bread softened in wine. A few olives, if you're lucky. A smear of cheese that may or may not be older than the Republic. You duck under a swinging basket of cabbages as a grocer hoists it up into a window. You think you catch a whiff of mint. Or mildew. Hard to tell. Your neighbor, Lucius, is already seated on the front stoop, gnawing on a piece of garlic like it owes him money. His tunic is half-tucked. His hair is fully unbrushed. And he's radiating that early morning, "Don't talk to me," energy. He nods at you, mouth full. You nod back. Civilizations are built on small gestures. Your feet take you to a corner stall where a woman with arms like amphorae is selling flatbread. It's warm, slightly burned at the edges, and smells like ash and safety. You trade her a few worn coppers. She hands you the bread and immediately shouts at a dog that's sniffing her cart. The dog does not care. Nor should it. You find a step. One that looks like it might not collapse under the weight of your questionable life choices, and settle in for the morning feast. Bread, olive, sip of wine. The wine is sour, diluted, and frankly an insult to grapes everywhere. But it wakes you up like a slap from the gods. A small boy appears from nowhere and tries to sell you a walnut. Just one, for 2 coins. You politely decline. He vanishes back into the crowd like a squirrel in a toga. Your hands are already sticky from the wine. The crust of bread scratches the roof of your mouth. And still, there's something comforting about it. A ritual. A rhythm. This is how most people in Rome eat. Not feasting in reclining splendor like the senators. But here, on stoops and steps and dusty corners. Swallowing bread and street noise in equal measure. A donkey brays nearby. Someone yells, "By Jupiter!" Again, and you're pretty sure you just heard an amphora shatter? You chew. You swallow. You wonder if figs will be affordable today. Let's talk about your home a bit more. The insula, that vertical stack of shared space and shared sounds, was the Roman answer to affordable urban housing. And by affordable, we mean questionably safe. Fires were common. Collapses happened. It wasn't rare for a building to lean so far sideways you could reach your hand out the window and high-five a neighbor across the alley. Historians still debate just how stable these structures were, especially since few original insulae survive today. Which is probably not a great sign. But it's home. Back in your apartment, if you return before midday, you'll hear it all. Every sneeze, every sigh, every argument over who used the shared chamber pot without cleaning it. You remember yesterday's dispute vividly. It involved 3 households, a fishbone, and a remarkably creative use of the word, goat-faced. Still, the insula isn't just chaos. It's community. You know the smells of your neighbors' kitchens, the coughs of their children, the rhythm of their footsteps. When someone is missing, you notice. When someone's mother dies, you all pitch in for the incense. Rome may be loud, smelly, and unforgiving, but it's not lonely. You stand up, brushing crumbs from your tunic, which does little to improve its appearance. A breeze slips between the buildings, cool and sharp, carrying with it the scent of crushed thyme and wet limestone. You shiver, not from cold exactly, but from the awareness of how big the city is and how small you feel in it. Tenement dwellers like you make up the bones of Rome. You're not in the history books, but you are the heartbeat. As you walk, you pass a shopkeeper arranging bronze trinkets in a wooden stall. He hums off-key. Next to him, a baker fans away the soot from his oven's mouth. There's a line already, 5 customers deep, and the smell of cinnamon and sesame makes your stomach reconsider its earlier satisfaction. You could try for a honeyed cake. They're rare, and they cost too much. But today, maybe, just once, as you step into the line, you catch sight of something unusual. A pair of foreigners, probably from Gaul, wrapped in thick wool cloaks, looking completely overwhelmed. One of them points at the cakes like he's not sure they're edible. The vendor doesn't bother hiding his amusement. You smile. It's the same smile people give you when you try to pronounce Egyptian names. Rome is full of outsiders. That's part of its charm, and its chaos. You can hear accents from every corner of the empire. Syria, Hispania, Britannia. Some are here for trade, others for luck, most for survival. The empire is a sponge, and you're just one of many drops soaking in. Finally, it's your turn. You choose the smallest cake. Still warm, sticky with honey. The vendor winks and overcharges you. You accept it. He knows. You know. It's the dance. You bite in, and the sweetness explodes. Your teeth stick together. Your cheeks go numb. Worth it, probably. As you walk again, wiping syrup from your fingers with the edge of your tunic, which now bears yet another questionable stain. Your stomach is full enough. Your brain is starting to catch up with your body. And the city is humming. Not roaring yet, but humming. That middle tempo between sunrise and market hour. The perfect moment, brief, precious, when the chaos hasn't yet peaked. And just as you're beginning to think you might have a grip on the day, a boy runs past you, shouts, "Move, Roman cabbage," and nearly knocks you into a pottery stall. You stumble, catch yourself, and your knees shout angry things in Latin. Time to rejoin the street, the real Roman theater. The forum, the baths, the vendors, the chaos, it's all waking up. And so are you. You step into the sun-drenched alley that spills into the wider street, ducking just in time to avoid a pigeon that clearly has no respect for human schedules. The forum can wait, your stomach though recently pacified with bread and syrup, has started whispering again, not in hunger, but in wariness. That garum sauce from last week still lingers in your dreams like a fishy ghost. You veer off toward a little corner thermopolium, one of those humble Roman street food stalls tucked between a tannery and what might generously be called a barber shop. You've passed this place before: stone counter, amphorae of dubious wine, a few clay bowls stained from years of reuse. The sign hanging above it is hand-painted and slightly askew. It features either a loaf of bread or a turtle. You choose to believe it's bread. Inside, the air is thick and warm, part steam, part sweat, part hope. There's already a line of regulars. A man in a soiled toga with eyebrows that move independently. A woman carrying two squirming toddlers. And someone in a faded military tunic who may or may not be asleep while standing. The server behind the counter is a wiry man with a scar across his chin and a ladle that has seen better centuries. He scoops something brownish from a clay pot and slops it into a shallow bowl. You pay your few coppers and receive your reward: a steaming stew of lentils, onions, and what you sincerely hope is not pigeon. You sniff. It smells edible. Possibly. The texture resembles regret, but your stomach doesn't care. You find a shady spot against the wall and start eating. The taste is a confusing mix of spice and surrender. Not bad, not good, just Roman. The lentils are soft, the broth salty, and the oil floating on top leaves a thin sheen on your lips. There's a faint metallic tang, possibly from the lead-glazed bowl. You've heard rumors. Historians still argue whether Rome's lead cookware contributed to widespread illness or if that's just a modern worry projected backward. Either way, you try not to think too hard about it as you chew. The server hands a bowl to the sleeping soldier, who accepts it without waking. Impressive. A stray cat curls up beside your foot. It eyes your food, then closes its eyes with regal indifference. Classic Roman feline. Thermopala like this one are the beating heart of everyday eating. Most Romans, especially those living in insulae, don't cook at home. Fire hazards, limited space, and general inconvenience make it easier to grab a hot meal on the street. These food shops are loud, crowded, and occasionally questionable, but they serve the city's appetite with admirable efficiency. Archaeologists uncovered dozens of them in Pompeii, complete with counters, shelves, and murals of food, some even preserved with food remnants still in the containers. History's longest takeout menu. You stir the last of your stew, scraping the bottom for the bonus lentil. The clay bowl is hot in your hands. Your fingers feel sticky, and your tongue tingles a little. Whether from spice or lead is unclear. A couple of young men arrive, loud and flushed. One shouts about racing chariots. The other waves his hand like he just insulted Jupiter. You sidestep them and finish your food, feeling the heaviness settle in your belly like a sleepy turtle. You return the bowl and thank the server, who grunts in a way that might mean, "You're welcome," or "Don't come back." Either way, you appreciate the closure. As you walk away, your lips still glisten from oil, and your stomach hums with mild uncertainty. You feel the sun warming your neck, your sandals slapping rhythmically against the stones. The street has thickened. More carts, more shouting, more smells. Someone's selling eels from a bucket. Someone else is playing a wooden flute with an enthusiasm that makes up for his skill. Your senses are overwhelmed. You taste garlic on your own breath. You smell horses, dust, and human proximity. The world closes in around you like a living mural. You pause to catch your breath under a vine-covered archway. And for a moment, you think about the rich. Not with jealousy, just curiosity. They don't eat here. They have atriums and fountains, servants and silver dishes. Their breakfasts involve dates, honeyed nuts, and maybe a boiled egg or two. They recline while dining, on couches too soft to understand struggle. You, meanwhile, have just eaten mystery lentils off a clay plate while leaning against a crumbling wall. But still, you are fed. You are standing. You are part of Rome. And honestly, you wouldn't trade this for peacock tongue and awkward small talk under marble ceilings. Just as you're about to head toward the baths, because your armpits are beginning to stage a rebellion, you spot an old woman waving you over. You know her, everyone does. She sits by the corner most mornings with a basket of charms, herbs, and slightly unsettling dolls made of wax. She sells remedies, not all of them legal. But she's kind. You nod and walk over. She hands you a bundle of sage and tells you to burn it tonight if you've been having bad dreams. You didn't say anything about the dreams. She just knows. You offer her a few coins and she refuses. You need it more than I do. She mutters, then returns to squinting at the crowd like she's looking for someone she lost a long time ago. You tuck the bundle into your belt, a faint scent of earth and smoke following you as you go. It makes you feel slightly lighter, safer. Rome may be chaos, but its corners still hold small kindnesses. As you pass another food stall, this one selling roasted chickpeas and figs, you hear a couple arguing in Greek. You catch snippets about dowries and wine. 2 streets over, someone starts playing a drum. Children laugh. A dog barks at a statue. The statue wins. Your feet are starting to hurt. You didn't think about it until now. But the leather of your sandals has rubbed your heel raw. You stop to adjust the strap. A sharp sting runs up your calf. Your knees protest. The stew in your belly grumbles. Your body is an orchestra of soft complaints. But the day marches on. And so do you. And just as you begin to wonder whether you'll have time to wash before visiting the forum, a gust of hot, wine-scented air drifts down the alley, and the familiar steam of the baths curls around the next corner. Inviting and a little judgmental. Time to clean up. You round the corner and the heat hits you like a soft, wet towel to the face, thick, fragrant, and unapologetic. The public baths of Rome are awake, and they smell like eucalyptus, ambition, and last week's socks. Steam curls from behind marble columns, drifting lazily into the alleyway like it knows exactly where it's going. You step inside. The first thing that hits you, after the wall of humidity, is the sound. Echoing laughter, low splashes, the occasional yelp from someone dunked too suddenly, feet slapping wet tiles, the chatter of old men who believe they are experts in everything. You feel your shoulders begin to drop already, as if just being in the vestibule has exhaled half your tension. Inside, the architecture is absurdly grand. The Romans didn't build small baths, they built statements. High ceilings, vaulted domes, mosaics that glint like jewelry under the watery light. Even in the more humble neighborhoods, the baths feel like temples for the body, if the temple also featured naked arguing and aggressive back scrubbing. You strip with practiced speed, folding your tunic and tucking it into a wall niche. You leave your sandals next to 100 others, all of which look like they belong to people who don't plan on losing them. You hold your arms slightly out, skin prickling as warm air rushes across you like a welcoming sigh. There's a moment, just a moment, of discomfort. You feel exposed, not just physically, but existentially. The human form was meant to carry groceries and disappoint relatives, not to strut through steamy marble hallways under judgmental statues. But then you remember. Everyone is naked. Everyone is weird. No one is looking at you. Probably. You step into the tepidarium first. The warm room. The heat wraps you up gently, like warm dough. A man next to you sighs dramatically. Eyes closed, face lifted to the domed ceiling. His belly floats gently in the water like a half-submerged amphora. You wade in next to him, and the warmth instantly seeps into your knees, thighs, and spine. Your muscles send you a thank you note. Public baths were central to Roman daily life. More than a place to wash, they were where business happened. Gossip brewed, and politics played out. They were the empire's social glue. Everyone came, senators, soldiers, slaves. Some facilities even had libraries, snack bars, and workout areas. It's essentially the ancient Roman version of a spa meets gym meets forum. And somehow, there's always that one guy who brings a flute. You move to the caldarium, the hot room. Here the heat is aggressive, the kind that makes your earlobes sweat. A brazier burns low nearby, and the stone floor threatens to burn your feet. You slide onto a bench, ignoring the sizzle from the guy who sat too fast. Steam presses down on you like an old aunt's hug, comforting, but also impossible to escape. You close your eyes. The air tastes of mineral water and wet sandalwood. Your nose itches. Your shoulders slump. You're a stew of yourself. And then the quiet starts to whisper. Other people's conversations, soft and slippery, float through the air like drifting kelp in a thermal sea. A man nearby is telling an exaggerated story about a senator's unfortunate horse mishap. You catch every third word: toilet, cloak, runaway. Another is arguing about chariot race results, swearing on Neptune's beard that the Greens are rigging the circuit. A woman, not bathing, just delivering towels, laughs so loudly it makes a splash. And still, it's peaceful. Then comes the frigidarium, the cold plunge. This is not peaceful. The water is a slap, a betrayal, a wake-up call from the gods. You lower yourself slowly, like a liar entering a courtroom. The cold climbs your shins, your thighs, and then, yes, there it is. Your breath catches. You sit. You survive. Barely. You imagine Roman soldiers doing this after battle. Senators after long debates. Bakers after kneading dough in the summer heat. You, after eating lentils of questionable origin. There's something purifying about it. Not just physically, but mentally. Like your worries can't hold on in this temperature. Historians still argue whether the exact order of rooms was followed strictly across the empire, or if local traditions varied the routine. What's agreed upon, however, is that bathing was essential, not optional. To be clean was to be Roman. Or, at the very least, to smell less like a barn fire in July. You step out, water cascading off your body. You grab a towel from the stack, coarse, clean-ish, smelling faintly of lime and something herbal, and pat yourself dry. Your skin tingles. Your lungs feel opened. You feel better. Not new, but definitely improved. Back in the dressing area, you rewrap yourself in your tunic. It clings in places you wish it wouldn't. You slide your sandals back on, wincing as the strap finds your blister again. Still, there's pride in walking out of the baths, posture straighter, hair damp, face flushed, like you've done something noble. A boy is selling figs near the door. You take one, sweet, sun-warmed, soft as a whisper. The juice runs down your chin. A good fig can redeem any day. A great one makes you forget you live in a fire-prone apartment above a man who owns 5 goats and no indoor voice. You step back into the street, freshly steamed and fig-fed, and the world greets you with its usual fanfare: a sudden donkey cart, a broken wine jug, a philosopher shouting about virtue while clearly drunk. Your body is clean, but Rome is still Rome. And just as you begin to plan your route toward the Forum, a gust of wind catches your tunic and sends it billowing like an offended curtain. You wrestle it down, glancing at a nearby statue of Minerva who seems to be judging you. Just a little. Time to head toward the Forum, where marble pillars and muddled debates await. You're back in the open air now, walking with fresh skin and semi-damp armpits toward the beating civic heart of the empire, the Roman Forum. The sun has risen fully above the rooftops, painting everything gold and dust. The marble columns of the basilicas glint like oversized teeth. Birds circle lazily overhead, already eyeing the crumb potential of the afternoon. The road under your feet was laid centuries ago. It's uneven, worn smooth by sandals, wheels, and the occasional drunken senator. Your feet slip into its grooves like puzzle pieces, each step a reminder that 1,000 others walked here before you. Your heel still stings from the bath's cold plunge, but the warm stones feel strangely comforting now. Like a flatbread just out of the oven, you cross under a triumphal arch, its carved reliefs grimacing down at you from 10 feet up. There's a battle scene above, some general whose name you probably should know, holding a spear in one hand and the loyalty of Rome in the other. But mostly, you notice the pigeons perched on his helmet. The forum buzzes, not in a frantic way, but in that layered hum of voices, footsteps, and distant flutes. It's a space that doesn't quite belong to any one group. Senators stroll past beggars, orators warm up beside vendors, schoolboys chase each other with slates in hand, shouting conjugations between bursts of laughter. Everyone here is performing something, even if no one's watching. You pause at a fountain, its lion-headed spout trickling out water with lazy confidence, and cup your hands to drink. The water is cold, sweet, and laced with the faint taste of limestone and thyme. A few sips later, your tongue feels less like leather, and your thoughts stop sticking together. You drift toward the rostra, the raised platform where speeches happen. A man is already there, gesturing wildly. His voice is raspy, his toga halfway down his arm, and his eyes aflame with purpose. You try to follow his argument. It's something about grain prices. Or maybe bad omens, but halfway through, he begins comparing senators to badly watered cabbages. And you lose track. You lean against a column, half in shadow. The surface is cool against your back, and you let your eyes close for a moment. The forum's voice rises and falls like a tide. The world doesn't stop here. It just eddies. A patrician walks by, his tunic spotless, sandals gleaming like he polished them with imported dolphin oil. His servant trails behind, fanning him and keeping a respectful distance, just far enough to pretend he isn't rolling his eyes. You don't envy them. Wealth smells good, sure, but it always seems to walk like it forgot how to bend its knees. A few stalls are tucked into the edges of the forum, selling scrolls, seals, wax tablets, and ink. You pause at one. The merchant, a woman with fingers stained from years of handling parchment, offers you a glance at her latest work. A recipe for a hangover cure, she says, from a general who drinks like the Rhine. You pass, but she winks. Next time, she says. History books always show the forum as this grand, serene marble court, but in truth, it's more like a messy family dinner that never ends. Deals are made here, alliances form, insults fly. It's all law and order on the surface. But underneath, it's gossip, bribes, and sweat. The real Rome isn't carved in stone. It's mumbled over shoulders and scribbled on wax. Just as you're thinking of heading out, a fight breaks out between two vendors over a fish crate. The crowd parts slightly, not to avoid it, but to give it better viewing angles. A toga gets torn, an eel escapes, a child screams with laughter. The bystanders offer opinions that no one asked for. Eventually, a city officer arrives, not to punish anyone, but to eat the eel, which someone has somehow roasted during the commotion. You decide it's a good time to move on. Your feet carry you toward the Temple of Saturn. Its tall pillars like bones against the sky. You've never been inside. It's closed most days unless there's a ceremony. But people always gather near it. It's comforting somehow. Ancient, even by Roman standards. Rumor says it still holds the treasury, though no one seems eager to test that. Historians still debate whether the forum was always this chaotic, or whether it decayed over time as bureaucracy bloated. Some say it was once a place of sacred order, but the truth likely lies somewhere between ceremony and circus. As you pass a marble statue missing its nose, you catch your reflection in a polished shield being sold nearby. Your tunic is askew, your hair is aggressively honest, and your eyes carry that, "I've survived this much. Might as well see what happens next" look. You smile at yourself. Rome has a way of rubbing off on you, like wine on linen, permanent, slightly acidic. Suddenly, a burst of birds rises from the basilica rooftop, pigeons flapping wildly into the sky. A few feathers float down, slow and soft, like ancient snow. It reminds you, time is passing. The sun has tilted just enough to make your shadow stretch. The forum will still be here tomorrow. The arguments will still be ongoing. The statues will still be headless. But your stomach is making decisions without you again. The stew and fig are distant memories. And your legs are beginning to feel the effects of stone streets and civic engagement. You turn to leave, brushing a bit of marble dust from your arm. As you exit the forum, a boy hands you a flyer, an invitation to a play happening later tonight. You glance at it. A tragedy about forbidden love and mistaken identity. So, a comedy. Then, you tuck it into your belt. And just as you begin wondering where to eat next, you catch a glimpse of something. Smoke curling from the thermopolium down the street. Your feet change direction before you even finish the thought. Rome's waiting, with more stew, possibly less lead this time. The street curves gently away from the forum, narrowing into a quieter alley lined with tall tenements and wooden balconies that creak like tired elbows. You pass under a low arch, ducking instinctively, though you've walked this way 100 times. The light shifts here, cooler and filtered, bouncing off worn plaster and broken cobblestones. Somewhere nearby, a lyre is being played out of tune with incredible passion. You try not to smile. You're heading toward your favorite thermopolium, not because the food is better, it's not. But because the old woman who runs it tells jokes that make your ribs hurt. You've already accepted your fate. More boiled beans in bowls that might double as roof tiles. You just hope they went easy on the garum today. The last batch left you dreaming about talking fish. Inside, the shop is dim and smoky. Clay pots line the wall, stained with years of stews, sauces, and enthusiastic seasoning. You recognize the regulars. The man who always smells like vinegar. The woman who argues with her own shadow. And the teenager who's pretending to read a scroll while staring at the waitress. It's comforting, like stepping into a lukewarm bath of shared mediocrity. You order something vague sounding. It arrives hot, beige, and vaguely lentil adjacent. You blow on it gently, the steam curling into your face with the fragrance of cumin, onion, and hope. The first bite is too hot. The second is too chewy. The third, strangely perfect. It warms you from the inside out, even as the oil clings to your lips like a farewell kiss. Then, in walks a senator. Or, more likely, someone playing the part. His tunic is clean. His sandals aren't even dusty. And he has the look of someone who believes conversations should wait until he's ready. He orders wine without even glancing at the menu. There is no menu. The room shifts slightly, people sitting straighter. Voices quieter. It's fascinating how one person can bend a room without lifting a finger. You watch him from the corner of your eye. His ring catches the firelight. His voice carries like an actor trained for amphitheaters. And yet, there's something brittle about him. Like a clay statue just before the first crack. You wonder what he's hiding. Everyone in Rome hides something. Rome's classes are everywhere, but nowhere more vivid than in its eateries. The wealthy dine in their homes, served on silver with multiple courses, reclining sideways and discussing literature they haven't read. The rest of Rome? You squat on benches, share bowls, and hope the oil isn't reused too many times. Still, there's joy here, and grease, lots of grease. A loud belch comes from behind the counter. The old woman grins. Better out than in, she declares, and the room exhales. The senator shifts in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. You sip your wine, thin, watery, barely fermented, and try not to choke on your amusement. And then the boy enters. Small, barefoot, hair like straw. He walks straight to the old woman and whispers something. Her face hardens. She hands him a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth and waves him out. Muttering, "Tell your mother not to wait so long next time. She doesn't ask for coin." You watch the exchange quietly. That kind of kindness doesn't wear laurels or carry scrolls. It just happens, quietly, between one heartbeat and the next. You finish your bowl, cheeks flushed from the heat, fingers slick with oil. The senator is still talking, something about grain distribution and how hard it is to find decent help. You imagine throwing your bowl at him. You don't. Instead, You stand, stretch, and leave a coin on the table. Outside, the sun has shifted. Shadows stretch across the alley like lazy cats. The scent of your lunch clings to your tunic. Your stomach is full, your feet still sore, and your soul slightly better off than it was an hour ago. You head south now, toward the working districts. The buildings here are squat and sunburned. Their windows shuttered against the glare. Children dart between your legs, laughing, barefoot, sticky. A woman yells from a balcony about missing laundry. A man mutters about taxes and chickens. Someone is arguing with a statue. You step over a puddle that may or may not be water and try not to think about it. Your path takes you past a workshop. Inside, two men are hammering copper into something bowl-shaped. Sparks fly. One is singing off-key. The other wears an expression of permanent disappointment. You pause, watching their dance, the rhythm of labor. There's something deeply human about it. You smell sweat, metal, and roasted barley from a nearby bakery. Slavery in Rome isn't hidden. It's everywhere. The man turning the millstone. The woman pouring water. The boy sweeping ash. Rome runs on the backs of others, many with no say in their path. And yet, not all is cruelty. Some slaves earn wages. Some are tutors. Some manage estates. It's not just a chain, it's a maze. Historians still argue about how personal, complex, and even transactional these relationships could be. Power, after all, is rarely simple. As you walk, you nod at a woman hauling laundry in a basket twice her size. Her arms are ropey with strength. She grunts a greeting. You return it. Your path crosses with dozens of people. None of them famous. None of them likely to be remembered. But all of them necessary. You stop at a well, lowering the bucket with a creaking wooden pulley. The rope chafes your palms. When the water rises, cool and clean, you splash your face. The chill snaps you awake. A drop runs down your spine. You curse under your breath. And a nearby boy mimics you. Then laughs. The street begins to slope upward. You follow it, breath slow and steady. Every step an act of will. Your back is damp. Your knees creak. But the view at the top is worth it. Rome spread out in golds and grays. The temples and rooftops rising like teeth from the earth. You rest on a stone ledge. Pigeons coo around you. A man nearby naps with his hat over his face. Someone starts playing a reed pipe. You close your eyes, letting the warmth of the sun, the faint smell of smoke, and the lingering taste of lentils carry you into a light haze. And just as you feel sleep tug at your collar, a sharp whistle cuts through the air. Soldiers, marching, boots on stone, and suddenly, you remember, you're meant to meet someone near the baths. Again, Rome never lets you rest for long. You swing your legs off the stone ledge and push yourself up with a grunt that feels older than you are. The sound of marching grows louder, steady, disciplined, like a heartbeat carved into basalt. You follow it instinctively, pulled by the rhythm, down the slope, across a sun-drenched plaza, past a fruit seller haggling loudly over apricots. And there they are, the soldiers, clad in short tunics and segmental armor that flashes like fish scales in the sun. They move in tight formation, a living wall of muscle, sweat, and duty. Their sandals strike the ground in near-perfect unison, the thud of leather on stone creating a hypnotic rhythm. You step aside, and the breeze they stir as they pass smells like iron and dust and olive oil. They don't look at you. They never do. Eyes forward. Expressions locked somewhere between boredom and grim resolve. You wonder what they're thinking. Are they hungry? Homesick? Do their knees hurt, too? A centurion barks an order. The formation turns as one. It's impressive. Even the pigeons seem momentarily impressed. You follow them for a while. Not out of curiosity, but because their direction happens to match yours. You're heading toward the southern district, where the city starts to thin and the buildings grow older, wider, quieter. The crowd begins to melt away behind you. Here, the air smells more like earth than people. You pass a pottery yard, clay bowls stacked like sleepy moons. drying in the sun. The soldiers turn toward the barracks. You keep walking. Rome has the largest standing army the world has ever seen. And they are everywhere. Posted at borders. In cities. In the minds of poets and politicians. But here in the capital, they seem less like conquerors and more like the city's tired bones. Marching, guarding, waiting for orders. You've seen them drunk, dancing, crying. Once, one asked you for directions and then pretended he hadn't. Some enlist for glory, others for citizenship, some because there's nowhere else to go. Historians still argue whether life as a soldier brought more freedom or simply a different kind of captivity. You suspect both can be true. You step aside for a cart filled with amphorae, pulled by a mule with the exact expression of someone late for a meeting he doesn't want to attend. The cart wobbles dangerously over a broken stone, and one of the jars shudders but stays upright. You exhale in relief. Ahead, a man sits beneath a fig tree with a lyre in his lap. He plucks absent-mindedly, eyes closed, mouth open in a wordless hum. A child naps beside him, curled up like a cat, straw in her hair. You pass them slowly, your footsteps muffled by dust and thought. You're hungry again, which is ridiculous. But Rome feeds the body like it feeds the mind, in scattered pieces. A bite here, a sip there, a stolen moment of sweetness before the next obligation. You fish a fig from your belt pouch, the one the old woman handed you hours ago. It's soft now, almost bruised, but when you bite in, it bursts with sunlight and sugar and something close to joy. Juice runs down your wrist. You lick it without shame. Your path now skirts a garden, one of the public ones. Olive trees, rosemary bushes, a few crooked benches carved from travertine. A man is reading aloud to a group of listeners. It's some play you've heard before. Tragedy, unfaithful lovers, possibly some divine retribution involving a pig. You don't stop, but you smile. It's comforting to know someone is always telling stories in Rome, even if no one's listening. Just as you reach the edge of the garden, you hear the clink of metal on stone. You turn to see a young man sharpening a gladius. His eyes distant, not a soldier yet, but close, maybe training, maybe dreaming. He catches your gaze and nods. You nod back. That's how Rome works. You exist together in quiet acknowledgement, like co-stars in a very crowded play. Your feet ache. A pebble has wedged itself under your heel. And every step now feels like a question you don't want to answer. You stop near a fountain to shake it loose, lifting your sandal with a sigh that's half physical, half philosophical. A woman nearby glances at you. You both laugh, wordlessly. Back on the road, you start to see more travelers, families with carts, traders in dusty cloaks, children trying to sell you feathers. One offers you a magic stone that is very clearly a chunk of broken tile. You buy it anyway. He beams. You tuck it into your sash like treasure. A temple looms ahead, its columns thick and silent. You don't know which god it belongs to. Jupiter? Apollo? They're all here. Rome is a crowded city. Even for the divine, you toss a coin into the offering bowl. Not for favor, but for habit. Maybe one of them will nod in your direction, or at least ignore you less. The sun hangs low now, heavy and orange. Your shadow stretches behind you like a lazy dog. The city softens in this light. Cracks look golden. Dust looks poetic. Even the laundry flapping between tenements feels like a kind of banner, proof that people live, eat, love, and spill wine here. You pause at a crossroads. A vendor is closing his stall, brushing crumbs off the counter with a stained cloth. You smell honey. You consider doubling back. Then you hear it. A distant cheer. The roar of a crowd. The hiss of torches. Somewhere nearby, the amphitheater is alive. Maybe a game. Maybe a speech. Maybe a man pretending to be a god, shouting over the wind. You don't need to see it. Just hearing it is enough. Rome never truly sleeps. It just changes masks. Your shoulders ache. Your mind drifts. But your legs keep walking. And just as you begin to wonder if you've walked in a circle, A familiar doorway appears, your own. The insula rises above you, its crooked frame somehow welcoming. You enter, greeted by the smell of smoke, bread, and neighbors being loud. Someone shouts, a baby cries, a door slams. Home. And outside, the soldiers keep marching. You step through the familiar creaking doorway of your insula, and the city's roar fades behind you, replaced by something else entirely. It's not silence. Rome never offers that, but it's a different rhythm. The shuffle of feet on stairs. The clink of cookware above your head. Someone humming tunelessly on the floor below. Home is a chorus of the ordinary. You ascend the stairs slowly. Each wooden plank knows your weight, knows the places where your heel slips or the step bends just slightly inward. Somewhere above, water drips in an anxious rhythm from a roof tile into a basin. You count the drips, then stop, then start again. It becomes a game that distracts you from your knees screaming. By the time you reach your level, your shoulders sag, not from effort, exactly, but from the sensation of returning to a place that's never quite restful. Just familiar. You unlatch your door, a simple wooden frame swollen from years of weather, and step inside. Your room is dim, still smelling faintly of smoke from the neighbor's fire and the chamomile you tucked in the corner last week. Your bedroll looks like it's been thinking about you. You resist the urge to collapse onto it. Instead, you sit on the low stool by your window and let the air touch your skin. A breeze curls through, carrying with it the scent of roasted grain, lamp oil, and someone nearby frying onions in a way that borders on spiritual. You envy them, slightly, but you've eaten, mostly. The insula breathes around you. Someone coughs in the next room. A child sings the same two notes over and over. A couple is arguing 3 floors down, something about money, or salt, or a missing sandal. You smile, not because it's funny, but because it's life, and it means you're not alone. Rome's apartment life is not glamorous. The walls are thin, the ceilings leak, the stairwells are more vertical than safe. Fires are a constant fear. One stray coal and half the block becomes history. In fact, many insulae did burn, often taking lives with them. Archaeological digs suggest some buildings were rebuilt so many times. The foundations were layers of ash. And yet, people kept coming back, because in a city this dense, there isn't much choice. You reach for your water jug. Its clay sides still cool. You pour a little into a cup, cracked, patched with wax, and take a long sip. It tastes like minerals and memory. Your throat relaxes. Your fingers curl around the cup like it's something precious. And in a way, it is. You rise and move to the tiny altar set into the wall, barely a shelf. Really, with a tiny statuette of your household god, a few dried herbs, and the stub of an old incense stick. You light it. The smoke spirals upward, mixing with the slanted sunbeams and your private thoughts. You say nothing, just bow your head, eyes closed. Gratitude doesn't always need words. Below your window, the city sings its evening song. The vendor stalls pack up. Laughter drifts up from a nearby tavern. A dog howls once, then gives up. Somewhere, a flute plays a haunting melody that could either be art or someone failing enthusiastically. You let it all in. You think about the woman who gave you the sage, about the soldier with tired eyes, the boy with the magic stone. Each face folds into the others like pages in a worn scroll. Rome is made of people like them, like you, not just emperors or poets or generals, but bakers, bathers, broom holders, the kind whose names don't survive but whose lives held up the sky. Your tunic sticks to your back now, heat trapped from hours of movement and meals. You peel it away gently and stretch. Your spine pops like a cracked mosaic. You grimace, then laugh. Even your body is part of this city, weathered, bent, unbroken. You glance out the window. The sky is pinking at the edges, softening into dusk. Clay rooftops catch the last of the light like tired sails. You spot a cat padding across a wooden beam, tail held high, absolutely certain it owns the world. You're jealous of that confidence. In the distance, smoke rises in lazy coils from dinner fires. You imagine fish frying in pans, lentils bubbling over hearths, bread warmed by hand. The kitchens of Rome are small, often shared, often improvised, but they feed a million stories every day. Some with love, some with urgency, some just to survive. You return to your stool and let yourself sigh. Not out of sadness, but release. The day is fading, and with it, the need to perform. You don't need to be witty now, or alert, or fast. You just need to be. And yet, even in this peace, your mind stirs. You think about the jobs left undone, the coin pouch that's too light, the promise you made to visit someone near the harbor. Tomorrow, maybe. The wind picks up slightly, and the flame on your little oil lamp flickers. You lean forward, shielding it with your hand, watching the light dance across your fingers. They're calloused, blistered, strong. Your hands have scrubbed marble, carried baskets, clutched figs, poured wine. They have never written poetry, but they have lived it. From the floor above, footsteps thunder briefly, someone in a hurry, or someone chasing a child, or both. You don't mind. The world is alive around you, and that counts for something. And just as you begin to think you might settle in for the night, a knock sounds at your door. Soft, familiar. You open it to find a neighbor holding a small bundle of linen. Extra bread, she says, burned on one side, but still good. You thank her. She shrugs. We're all burning on one side, she says with a grin, and disappears back into the stairwell. You sit. You break the bread. You eat. It's rough, uneven, perfect. And outside, Rome continues its slow, beautiful clatter. The bread settles in your stomach like a warm stone, coarse on the outside, soft on the inside, with that faint smoky taste that only comes from ovens older than your landlord's lies. You lean back against the wall, chewing slowly, watching the sky fade from amber to that particular Roman purple, a color that seems to hum just above the rooftops. But rest doesn't last long here. Somewhere outside, a trumpet bleats off-key. A dog answers. Voices rise in unison, swelling into a sound like ocean foam scraping against brick. You know that rhythm. It's the Colosseum crowd. Something is happening, or ending, or both. You grab your thin shawl, more for habit than warmth, and step out into the corridor, letting the door creak closed behind you. Your feet take you toward the noise. Half guided, half possessed. The evening air brushes your arms like cool parchment, and you move without thinking. Sandals slapping lightly down the stairs. Your knees still don't forgive you. By the time you reach the main road, the city is glowing, torches lit in doorways, braziers flickering in corners, tiny oil lamps casting fluttering shadows across laughing mouths. You merge into the current of people, swept forward toward the great amphitheater like a leaf caught in a tide of anticipation. You're not going in, of course. You can't afford that, but you can stand near the arches, beneath the towering mass of travertine and shadow, and listen. It's enough. The Colosseum rises ahead, its tiers layered like a birthday cake no one ever finishes. It's massive, absurd, powerful, the kind of place that dares you to feel small. You slip through a side alley and find your usual spot, beside a broken statue of a lion with only one paw left. You lean on it. It's cool and familiar. Inside, the roars rise and fall like waves. You can almost see it, the sand, stained and raked, the performers pacing, the animals pacing harder. You don't know what's on the schedule tonight. Maybe a mock naval battle. Maybe a theatrical execution dressed up as mythology. Maybe just gladiators fighting not to die too quickly. Your skin prickles, not from fear, from awe. There's something magnetic about it all. The tension, the choreography of blood and cheering and silence. Rome doesn't just entertain, it devours. You glance around. You're not the only one watching from outside. Dozens of others linger here in the torchlight, leaning on walls, trading whispered guesses about who's winning. An old man mutters a bet to himself. A child tries to climb the lion statue and gets immediately scolded by a woman carrying a basket of dates. She offers you one. You accept. It's sweet and gritty and sticks to your teeth. Inside, the crowd explodes again. A name is shouted, repeatedly, like a chant. You catch bits of it. Gaius. Steel hand. Unbroken. You wonder who he is. What he looks like. Whether he'll survive the night. Probably not. The gladiators are Rome's strange royalty, slaves, criminals, volunteers, all turned into symbols of courage and cruelty. They fight not just with weapons, but with rhythm, with spectacle, with the desperate, sharpened grace of those who know they're being watched by thousands and remembered by none. Historians still argue how often fights ended in death, whether mercy was more common than Hollywood tells us. But you know one thing for sure. Every man in that arena is someone's son. Someone's brother. Or was. You feel it in your chest, that quiet tightening. It's not sadness. Exactly. It's weight. The weight of a system built on blood and cheers. The knowledge that everyone loves the spectacle, until they're the one holding the sword with empty eyes. You shift your weight. The lion statue creaks. The woman with the date basket has left. The child trails behind her, trying to sing the chant from inside but getting the words hilariously wrong. You consider leaving. Then someone steps into your peripheral vision. A man, average height, hooded cloak. He glances at you. Then at the Colosseum. He won. He says softly. You blink. Who? Steel hand. Knocked the other man down with one hit. Crowd lost their minds. His voice is low, almost tired. Did he spare him? You ask. Without thinking. The man shrugs. Didn't get the chance. Emperor wanted a show. And there it is. You feel your jaw tighten. Not with anger, but with that slow, heavy understanding. Mercy is rare when people crave narrative. Blood makes better theater. The man walks off. You stay a little longer. The chant's already fading into songs and laughter and the clatter of footsteps leaving. You peel yourself off the lion statue and head home through the winding back alleys, familiar turns. Familiar shadows. The lamps flicker, and moths dance around them in suicidal pirouettes. You pass a group of boys mimicking sword fights with sticks. One shouts, "Steel hand," and topples dramatically to the ground. They all laugh. You smile, weakly. Back at your building, the air is quieter, still warm, still restless. You nod at a neighbor who's pouring water from a clay jar. He nods back, eyes puffy from sleep or wine. Inside your room, the oil lamp flickers where you left it. You strip off your tunic and stretch, your back popping again like ancient scrolls. You sit at the edge of your bedroll, running a finger through the ash on the altar, drawing a lazy spiral. You think about Gaius, or whatever his real name is. You wonder if he's eating now, or just staring at the floor, or remembering the man he didn't get to spare. And just as your eyelids begin to sag, and the shadows start to melt into the corners of the room, a dog howls in the distance. A lonely sound, or maybe proud. You lie back, and the night takes you. Gently. You wake to the sound of clinking, soft and repetitive, like someone stacking coins just outside your skull. It takes a moment to realize it's coming from across the hall. Your neighbor. The one who prays more than he speaks and sweeps his doorway exactly 12 times every morning. Today, he's up early. Again, rustling around his little household shrine, muttering names you don't recognize. You close your eyes. It doesn't help. Morning in Rome is rarely gentle. It arrives with shouting, footsteps, and the scent of whatever someone decided to burn for breakfast. You sit up, rubbing the salt of sleep from your eyes. Your back protests. Your knees crack like dropped pottery. Your feet have that numb tingle that promises both pain and guilt for not moving sooner. You rise, stretch, and wince. The air still carries the faintest chill, clinging to your skin like damp linen. You shuffle to the window and unlatch the shutter. Sunlight pours in, amber, generous, filled with promise it might not keep. Below, the street is already bustling. A woman is sweeping dust into a pile that's quickly undone by two passing boys playing tag. A beggar sits at the corner, humming a song that loops back on itself. A man is lighting incense at a wall shrine. He bows 3 times, presses his forehead to the stone, then mutters something into his sleeve. You watch it all, leaning on the windowsill like a weary philosopher. Religion in Rome isn't so much practiced as woven into everything. Like threads of gold you only see when the light hits just right. There's no escaping it. Shrines in doorways, gods at street corners, offerings in fountains. You could walk 10 steps and brush shoulders with 10 different deities. You return to your small altar and relight last night's incense. The smoke rises slowly, curling like a sleepy question into the rafters. You whisper a name, or maybe just a hope. The air smells of sage and old prayers. You throw on your tunic, tie your belt, and slip outside. The sun climbs higher, casting warm fingers through the hanging laundry above. You pass a fig vendor setting up shop, his hands already sticky with sap. He nods. You nod back. This is the way. The slow choreography of Rome. As you pass a baker's stall, the smell of rising dough tugs at your ribs. You buy a small loaf, still warm, and tear off a piece. Steam curls from the inside. The crust cuts your gums slightly. You welcome it. At the corner, a woman is scattering flower petals into the street. You ask why. A wedding, she says. Or maybe a funeral. She laughs. These days, hard to tell. You continue toward the shrine of Mercury, which leans against a wall near the market's edge. It's small, just a weather-worn bust and a chipped tablet with offerings wedged into every crevice. Coins, bits of cloth, little carved birds. You add a crumb of bread. It's not much, but Mercury watches the poor, too, especially those who walk more than they ride. Historians still argue whether the gods were truly feared, loved, or simply tolerated like inconvenient uncles. But here, in the early light, it's hard to argue with the presence of something, call it tradition, spirit, or just shared superstition. You feel it. You pass a child whispering to a tree, pressing his forehead to the bark. You don't ask why. Next comes the butcher's quarter. The smell hits you first, metallic, hot, and rich. A woman is hauling a bucket of bones. 2 men carry a squealing pig past a cat who pretends not to care. A slab of beef hangs from a hook, swaying lazily in the breeze like a sleepy pendulum. You hold your breath. You walk faster. You reach the fountain near the old Saturn temple. Here, a group of older women gather with bundles of herbs. They talk softly, passing sprigs of rosemary and thyme, each with a different reason: for protection, for love, for digestion. One woman crushes a leaf between her fingers and hands it to you. Smell, she says. Keep the ghosts away. You thank her. You don't ask what ghosts. There are always ghosts. You move through the stalls, past the spice seller coughing into his sleeve, past the fishmonger waving flies away with a laurel branch, past the woman selling wax figurines of gods no one names aloud. She catches your eye and raises an eyebrow. You smile, but don't stop. Last time, the figurine melted in your pocket before you got home. By midday, the light is sharp and unforgiving. You find shade beneath a portico. Letting your feet rest, you watch Rome move, layers of ritual, rhythm, and randomness. Every doorway a small temple. Every corner a decision. Religion, here, isn't separate. It's stitched into the bricks. You could pray without meaning to. A man beside you lights a tiny lamp and murmurs something in Greek. You don't understand the words, but you understand the feeling. A quiet plea. A small fire against a large shadow. And just as you begin to doze, a shout rises from the far end of the street. A procession, musicians, bells, someone throwing petals, a wedding, then, or a funeral, maybe both. You stand, shake the stiffness from your limbs, and follow the sound. Rome always gives you something to believe in. You follow the music like a thread pulling you through the maze of old stone and new noise. The procession sways ahead of you, a handful of musicians playing flutes and drums. A cluster of women in veils. And someone in the middle carrying a bundle wrapped in white. You can't tell yet if it's a cradle or a funeral urn. Either way, the steps are solemn, measured, practiced. You peel off after a few minutes, leaving them to their ritual. There are other paths calling today. Your feet find the Via Appia, the old road. The proud road. The one that slices through Rome like a promise. You know this road. Everyone does. Laid by hand, slab by slab, under the glare of engineers who probably yelled a lot and wore sandals that never fit right. The road stretches out like a spine, wide, flat, noble. It was built for the legions. For emperors. For trade. For dreams. And now? It's for you. Just another walker. One more shadow crossing its ancient face. You step carefully. These stones remember everything. Each one is smooth from centuries of footsteps. The gaps between them wide enough to trap a small foot or swallow a borrowed sandal. You watch your step, toeing the edge of a weed pushing through the crack like it owns the place. Honestly, it probably does. You pass a merchant caravan resting on the side. Donkeys blink slowly in the sun, tails flicking. The smell is something between dried apricots and hot fur. One of the drivers nods at you. You nod back. Rome is built on nods. The road hums beneath you. A kind of memory you can feel in your bones. It's been used by thousands, farmers, centurions, lovers, fugitives. You walk where they walked. You breathe the dust they kicked up. There's something sacred in that. To your left, the land opens into a quiet stretch, just fields. Scattered stones. A few ruins leaning sideways into the breeze. The wind carries the scent of crushed time and distant smoke. A hawk circles above. A child chases a chicken in the distance. Neither is winning. You pass a milestone. Literally. A carved stone set into the earth. Marked with distances to and from the heart of Rome. It's chipped, stained, but still legible. You run your fingers across it. And for a second, the years feel thin. The road was the empire's veins. Carrying orders, grain, letters, soldiers, fears, news of war and rumors of peace. The same stone road, used by sandals and wheels and, now, you. Historians still debate whether it was originally paved all the way to Brundisium or if parts remained dirt until later. You don't care. You're here now. It's enough. You walk on, each step thudding gently. A woman with baskets passes you in the opposite direction. Her back is bent but her gaze is straight. You wonder how many times she's made this walk. Whether the road knows her name. A shepherd whistles to his dog. A child waves at you from the far side. You wave back. The sun shifts. And the shadow of your body stretches across the stones like a sundial that forgot how to tell time. You stop at a spot where the land dips just slightly. There's a ruin there, nothing impressive. Just a few low walls. Maybe the remains of an old rest stop or a guard post. You sit on one, feeling the warmth of the sun stored in its stones. You take a drink from your flask. The water is warm, metallic, vaguely herbal from whatever was in the flask before you got it. You don't mind. From here, you can see the road winding off into the haze, flanked by pine trees that sway with all the dignity of aging senators. A cart trundles in the distance, its wheels groaning under the weight of amphorae. You imagine the oil sloshing inside, thick, golden, pungent. Someone will be cooking with that tonight. Someone else will curse its price. The Appian Way doesn't just connect cities, it connects moments. It's the long exhale between scenes. The place where thoughts collect like dew. You feel it in your feet now, the ache creeping up your calves. The familiar protest of muscles that didn't ask for a country-sized treadmill. You shift your weight, adjusting your sash, brushing road dust from your knees. Your hand comes away gritty. Of course it does. You head back slowly, retracing your steps. The road looks different going this way, as if it's telling a second story layered over the first. The wind shifts. The hawk is gone. The child has won the chicken battle. And just as you near the city walls again, The crowd returns, no longer a procession, but a casual stream of life. A man balancing a basket of figs on his head. A group of women laughing at something whispered behind a veil. A boy spinning a coin in his palm like it's a secret. You step aside to let them pass. One of them offers you a grape. You take it. It's sour and perfect. And then, just before the gate, you see a dog, mangy, one ear torn, lying on the warm stone like he owns the city. You nod. He doesn't move. That's fair. You re-enter the city through a gate that once welcomed emperors and now welcomes you. Dusty and slightly sunburned, the walls close in again. The road narrows. The noise returns. But part of you still carries the road, its stillness. Its sky. Its quiet. And just as your foot steps back onto the familiar stones of home, you hear your name, called softly. Someone remembered you were supposed to meet them. Rome never lets you wander forever. You turn toward the voice. It's familiar, soft, amused, and laced with the kind of exasperation that only comes from someone who knows you too well. You spot her leaning against a column, arms crossed, one sandal tapping against the stone like a metronome of judgment. Julia, of course. She raises an eyebrow. You were supposed to meet me at midday, she says, already knowing you weren't going to. You shrug in that universal Roman way that says, I meant to, but also, the road existed. She sighs, then grins, and you fall into step beside her. No one walks like Julia, graceful and deliberate, like she's perpetually arriving somewhere 5 minutes early. She carries a small bundle under one arm. You don't ask. She never explains things right away. It's part of the charm. Or the trap. You walk through the Suburra district now. The rougher belly of Rome. The elegant marble and tidy courtyards are long gone. Replaced by narrow alleys, leaning tenements, and smells that require no introduction. Fish, smoke, wet cloth, and something deeply mysterious that might be cheese. The streets here aren't wide enough for carts. So everything moves by foot, crates on backs, baskets on heads, complaints on lips. A boy shouts something from a window, followed by a clay cup that misses your shoulder by a thumb's width. Julia doesn't flinch. This is Rome without the theater masks. This is the Rome that wakes before dawn, works until dusk, and sleeps like someone hiding from dreams. You pass a small tavern with a crooked sign and a door that slams itself open every few minutes. Inside, two men are either arm wrestling or conducting a very aggressive business transaction. It's hard to tell. Julia nudges you. You still haven't eaten properly today. Have you? You mumble something about figs and lentils. She rolls her eyes and tosses you a small loaf from her bundle. It's still warm. The crust cracks as you tear it. And the smell of anise surprises you. You chew slowly. She watches, waiting for the verdict. You nod. Better than last week's. She beams. Didn't make this one. You stop chewing. You round a corner and nearly collide with a butcher carrying a bucket of pig heads. He nods politely. You nod back because this is normal now. You duck under a hanging sheet and pass a woman singing as she beats laundry against a wooden board with the confidence of a person defeating her enemies. The Suburra is loud, but not aimlessly so. Everything here has purpose. Even the chaos feels practiced. A sort of urban choreography. You pass children playing knucklebones on the steps of a bathhouse. One of them sticks out his tongue at you. You return the gesture. Julia sighs deeply. You pause near a bakery's rear wall, where the warm scent of rising dough leaks into the street like an invitation. A man leans against the doorframe, flour in his beard, hands on hips. He offers you a roll. Julia declines. You accept. It's still steaming. You burn your tongue and pretend you didn't. Life in the Suburra isn't glamorous, but it's real, raw, the kind of neighborhood where borrowed things rarely come back. But bad news always does. Still, there's life here that doesn't exist anywhere else in Rome. Color, noise, stories whispered across stairwells. Julia points to a small shrine wedged into the wall between two butcher shops. It's barely bigger than a pigeon coop. Inside sits a tiny clay figure of Fortuna, the goddess of luck, smiling faintly like she knows how this all ends. There are coins on the ledge, a withered garland, and a half-eaten pear. Juliet tosses her crust beside it. Could use some luck today. You wonder what she means. But again, she doesn't elaborate. You stop in front of a tall insula, taller than yours, leaning ever so slightly left, like it's trying to escape the rest of the city. Laundry flutters from every floor, creating a tapestry of daily life, children's tunics, worn shawls, a remarkably aggressive pair of red socks. Juliet tilts her head upward, studying it. I used to live there, she says. You blink. The top floor? She nods. You could feel the wind. And every time someone sneezed on the third floor, my candle blew out. She's smiling when she says it, but there's something heavy behind her eyes. You move on, past a carpenter hammering loudly while singing off-key, past a one-eyed cat licking something suspicious near a drain, past a man selling boiled eggs out of a basket lined with burlap. The sky is beginning to turn that late afternoon bronze, the kind that makes every surface look touched by firelight. Julia stops at a stall selling herbs, mint, rosemary, bay leaves. She trades a few coins for a handful of basil, which she tucks into her bundle like a secret. You ask her what she's cooking. She shrugs. Maybe soup, maybe nothing. Depends on how the evening goes. That's how it always is in Rome. Plans are suggestions. Meals are negotiations. The future is whoever answers the door first. You walk back toward the hill together, the city humming all around. You pass a group of people seated on the curb, laughing over a shared bottle of something dangerously fragrant. One of them is reciting a poem badly. No one minds. Your stomach settles, not from food, but from company. Julia doesn't ask questions you can't answer. She just walks beside you like you've always been going the same direction. And just as the shadows lengthen and the torches begin to glow on every corner, she turns to you and says, "Don't be late next time." She disappears around the bend with a wave of her hand. The smell of basil trails behind her. And you're left alone again, with bread in your hand and the evening ahead. The sun has slipped behind the rooftops now, casting Rome in that dusty amber glow that only lasts a handful of breaths. The shadows stretch longer. The torches flicker taller. And with each step you take, the noise shifts, less of the daytime din, more of the strange, elastic murmur that only comes with nightfall. The Sabura doesn't sleep. It mutates. You move slowly now, weaving past lanterns being lit in windows, small children being herded indoors by mothers with no interest in debate, and shopkeepers sweeping their thresholds with tired wrists. The air has thickened just slightly, carrying the scent of burned oil, wine-soaked floors, and the sour note of too many bodies crammed into too little space. Your muscles ache in a familiar way. Not pain exactly. More like a reminder that your body exists. That it's been walking, lifting, reacting all day. You stretch your arms overhead. Something pops near your shoulder. You decide not to worry about it. And then, rain. It begins without warning, like most things in this city. A heavy drop. Then another. Then a slow drum roll on the tile roofs above. Warm, insistent, like a god casually pouring out bathwater on the city below. You duck under a narrow awning next to a tailor's shop, the scent of damp wool rising around you. Beside you, a man with a missing sandal curses under his breath and wrings out his sleeve like it insulted him. You both watch the street transform into a slick river of flickering torchlight and gleaming stone. Rain in Rome is more than water. It's test and theater. You watch as a woman runs past with her skirt bundled up to her knees, cackling madly as if being drenched were some kind of divine joke. A boy slips and recovers with the grace of a drunk dancer. A dog shakes itself next to a statue of Mars, utterly unimpressed. You pull your shawl tighter. The fabric clings. Your skin begins to itch. Not unpleasantly, just enough to remind you that the tunic you wear is woven from scratchy linen and stubborn habits. You shift your weight, trying not to lean too hard against the wall behind you. It's damp and smells faintly of vinegar and paint. And then, almost as suddenly as it began, the rain slows, pauses, stops. Rome is like that, never commits to one thing for too long. You step out again. The air feels changed, cleansed but heavy. The ground glistens. Your feet squish slightly in your sandals. You try not to think about it. You turn down a quieter alley now, away from the crowds, following a path lit by tiny clay lamps balanced in alcoves and windowsills. This part of town whispers more than it speaks. Here, you find the forgotten corners, the back walls of temples, the moss-covered stairs no one uses anymore, the doorways that lead to rooms that lead to more questions. You know this route well. It's one of your favorite escapes. Halfway down the alley, you pass a wall etched with graffiti. Not the crude, angry kind, but the quiet, personal kind. Names, wishes, symbols. A crudely carved heart with the words, Livia et Marcus, still visible despite the years. Someone's prayer to Fortuna. A simple drawing of a fish. You touch the stone gently. It's still warm. And then, there it is. That ever-familiar scent. Chamber pots. You round the corner and there, in a narrow colonnade, sits one of Rome's many public toilets, the latrina. A long marble bench, evenly spaced holes, a small flowing channel at your feet. It's clean enough, relatively speaking. There's even a single torch mounted to the wall, flickering bravely. You take a seat, carefully. This is where Rome becomes both brutally human and oddly communal. No stalls, no privacy, just you, your thoughts, and whoever else shows up needing a break. A man sits 2 seats away, humming as he adjusts his toga. He nods at you. You nod back. Another man enters, greets you both like old friends, and begins a monologue about the price of wheat. There's a sponge on a stick in the shared bucket. You try not to look at it. And yes, the smell is present, not overpowering, but assertive. Public toilets in Rome are an equalizer. Senators and slaves alike use them. They're places of necessity, but also social spaces. Deals are whispered. Gossip spreads faster than the flowing water. There's even graffiti in here, some of it poetic, some of it unrepeatable, and one message carved delicately in Greek. This city stinks. But so do we all. Historians still debate the exact sanitation benefits of the Roman latrine system. Some argue it was advanced for its time. Others claim it made things worse. You've decided the truth lies somewhere between clever engineering and a very brave sponge. You finish, stand, and nod to your fellow citizens. The man still humming gives you a small wave. You step back into the alley and exhale deeply. The air is better out here, if only marginally. You walk again, feeling oddly lighter. The city is quieter now. The voices are hushed. The fire's lower. A man sweeps water off his threshold with the focus of a monk. You step over a puddle and catch your reflection, tired eyes. Wrinkled tunic, hands slightly stained with bread and basil and mystery. You look Roman, in the honest way. And just as you consider heading home, a voice calls your name from a second-story window. You glance up. It's your neighbor, the one who always has extra lentils. Storm's coming back, she says. Better get in while it's just water. You thank her. She disappears. And as the wind stirs again, bringing with it the smell of wet brick and new clouds, you begin the walk home, one slow, squishy step at a time. The streets are shimmering now, washed clean by the earlier rain and glazed in torchlight. The cobblestones glint beneath your feet like coins scattered by a careless god. You tighten your sash and press on, guided not by direction but by scent. And there it is, the market. Even at this hour, it breathes, not with the urgency of morning trade or the stampede of midday shoppers, but with a kind of sleepy, fragrant hum. Lanterns hang like fireflies above the stalls. Some are closing, some never really opened, but the air here is thick with smells that coil through your nose and wrap around your memory. You pass a stand where someone is roasting chestnuts in a small iron pan. The shells crack with every turn, sending up curls of sweet smoke. Next to it, a man sells strips of dried meat that look older than Jupiter's beard. He grins at you with 3 teeth and offers a sample. You decline, politely. To your left, baskets of citrus glow in the lamplight like little suns. Lemons, oranges, maybe something pretending to be a pomegranate. You pick one up, it's skin waxy. The stem still clinging to a sprig of leaf. The vendor says something you can't quite hear. But you drop a coin into his hand. And he nods like you've both agreed to something ancient and binding. You bite into the orange. Juice flooding your mouth. It drips down your wrist and lands with a quiet plip on the stone below. You don't wipe it away. The sweetness softens the air, makes the noise seem further off. Then the fishmongers. Even with the rain, you smelled them before you saw them. Rows of tilapia and mackerel lie on crushed ice. Their glassy eyes staring up at Olympus. Octopus arms drape over bowls like lazy dancers. A girl with strong arms slaps a trout onto a scale and yells a price into the ether. No one haggles. Not tonight. A few stalls down, you see figs again, this time piled high and glistening under a damp cloth. Beside them, olives. Dark, glossy, angry looking. There are cheeses, too. Soft, pungent, and the kind that announces itself before you're even within polite distance. One of them seems to be fermenting into a new religion. Behind it all is the rhythm, hands slapping scales. Voices calling out like seabirds. Coins clinking, cloth rustling, the sounds of trade, of survival, of thousands of tiny decisions that hold the empire together like breadcrumbs on a mosaic. You pause at a spice stall. The air here is thicker, cinnamon, cumin, cloves, pepper, saffron, rosemary. The jars are small, sealed with wax and tied with twine. A man behind the counter waves a dried bay leaf like a wand and says, "For courage." You raise an eyebrow. Or digestion. He admits. You buy it anyway. Your fingers smell like oranges and now, just faintly, like old myrrh. You catch sight of a young couple debating over a bunch of grapes. They argue about ripeness like philosophers at war over truth. Beside them, a toddler gnaws on a head of lettuce like it's a prized toy. You chuckle. The toddler does not break eye contact. This market is not the grand one near the Forum. It doesn't have marble columns or gilded statues. But it's more alive. It hums like a crowded tavern. It crackles like a fireplace. It matters. You wander deeper. There's a man carving wood into something that might one day be a flute. A woman is selling roasted chickpeas in paper cones. A small boy, barefoot, eyes darting, offers to shine your sandals with a damp cloth. You tip him and ask him to please not touch your feet. He agrees and wipes the air near them with great flourish. You both laugh. You reach the center of the market where a torch burns brighter than the rest. And the stall beneath it is covered in bundles of fresh herbs. Dill, fennel, thyme, mint, lavender. The scent is dizzying. The vendor is an older woman with hands like tree bark and a voice like wine gone sharp. She sees your bay leaf, scoffs, and tosses a sprig of lavender into your hand. Sleep better, she says. You nod. She adds, also keeps the rats away. 2 uses. Very Roman. Historians sometimes write of the Roman economy in terms of numbers, bushels of grain, tons of garum, crates of amphorae shipped across seas. But here, in the market's warm belly, it's about something else entirely. Hands, eyes, trust, and smell. You pass a basket of garlic bulbs. Their papery skins glowing like moonlight. Then dates. Then dried rose petals. Someone is selling ink and quills next to a stall that sells nothing but boiled eggs. One man has 20 loaves of bread and no teeth. A girl offers to read your palm for a coin. You give her 2. She smiles and tells you you'll live a long, ordinary life. You tell her that sounds perfect. As the wind picks up again, you hear the first notes of a flute somewhere beyond the stalls. Not from a musician. From a child. The melody is awkward, uncertain, but persistent. You follow it for a while, letting it guide you through the glowing haze of the market. And just as you begin to wonder if the music is leading you anywhere at all, you find yourself at the edge of the square. The last of the vendors are packing up. The fires burn low. The scent of spice and sweetness lingers like a final kiss. You turn back, glance at the rows of flickering lanterns one last time, and then step into the street again, where the silence is waiting. Rome, for a moment, feels almost quiet. The sky is velvet now, deep blue washed with soot and gold. Stars blink through the haze like timid spectators. Rome is shifting into its nighttime rhythm, softer, slower, yet still deeply awake. You walk through the streets with a kind of practiced looseness, like someone who's learned to duck at the right time, smile at the right stranger, and never make eye contact with a goat. Ahead, a small schoolhouse looms, not grand, not well lit, but still there. The door is open just enough to spill a slice of torchlight onto the step. You weren't planning to stop, but curiosity tugs harder than hunger tonight. You slip inside. The room smells of wax, charcoal, and very old wood. Slates lean against the walls. A few benches are arranged in a lazy half-circle. On one, a boy sleeps, his mouth open, hand still gripping a stylus. On another, two younger children whisper Latin verbs like their secret spells. At the front of the room, a tutor, wiry, robe-wrapped, slightly cross-eyed, scrawls something on a wax tablet, muttering under his breath. Infinitives, he says without looking up. As infinite as my patience. You don't know if he's talking to the students or himself. Education in Rome is a strange privilege, reserved for boys of means, though not always of manners. The wealthy hire private tutors, often slaves. Ironically, sometimes Greeks. The rest come to places like this, where discipline and repetition reign. There's no curriculum, no bells, just the endless scribble of charcoal on slate in the hope that you remember something your father didn't already forget. You sit quietly on a stool near the back. No one questions you. You're too old to be a student, too poor to be a patron, too tired to be anything else. You listen as the tutor drills a list of declensions, occasionally rapping his knuckle against the table for rhythm. One boy blurts out a wrong answer and immediately winces, as if the word itself hurt on the way out. Another whispers the correct one. The tutor smiles at neither. Both wrong, he says. The right answer was silence. You smile. Julia would have liked that. In the corner, a cracked oil lamp flickers wildly, casting shadows that look like dancing scribes. The walls are covered in faint etchings, names, drawings, unspeakable opinions about Saturn. You recognize a few. Some of them are older than you. Learning in Rome isn't just about facts. It's about posture, diction, presence, how to read a crowd, how to speak from the gut but keep your hand on your dagger. The boys here may never wield swords, but they'll wield words, and in Rome, that might be deadlier. The tutor looks up suddenly. What's the use of knowing when to speak? He asks the room. Silence. Then a small voice near the window says, so we don't speak at the wrong time. The tutor nods. And the second reason? The room holds its breath. You answer quietly, uninvited, so we know when others are lying. He glances at you, just once, then back to his tablet. Correct. No applause. No acknowledgement. Just another truth laid down like a fresh paving stone. Outside, a cart rattles past, pulled by a pair of oxen who look like they've had absolutely enough of civilization. You step out and let the classroom melt behind you. Your mind lingers on those boys. Some of them will become magistrates. Some will become merchants. One or two might even write books no one will read for another 2,000 years. And one, quiet, bent over his slate, chewing on his stylus, he might become nothing. Just another man selling herbs by the forum. But even he will remember the feel of charcoal, the weight of a good answer, the sound of the tutor's voice slicing the evening open like a fruit. You walk now toward the Tiber, craving the sound of water. The river smells earthy tonight, silt and old fish, with a trace of oil from passing boats. A group of teenagers are skipping stones under the bridge, each throw punctuated by a cheer or a groan. You sit on the embankment, watching the current tug softly at the moonlight. And then, a shout. From above the bridge, two voices collide. Argument? Or theater? Hard to say. This is Rome. Words are weapons, but also currency. You recognize a few phrases: debate over property, maybe, or who owes whom dinner. You hear a name repeated with venom. Lucius. Someone spits, as though it tastes wrong. The voices fade. The stones remain. The river flows. You think about your own schooling, or lack of it. The letters you barely read. The speeches you almost remember. You think about the words you carry now. Not in books, but in your gut. The ones you used to bargain, to explain, to soften, to survive. You take the lavender sprig from earlier out of your pouch. Its scent is faint now, but still there. You roll it between your fingers, then tuck it behind your ear like a child. No one's looking. A breeze stirs, lifting the corner of your tunic. The cold brushes your ankles like curious fingers. You pull the fabric tight and rise, knees groaning. And just as you begin to turn toward home, a coin glints in the dirt beside you. Small, bronze, worn smooth. You pocket it. Rome gives and takes, usually in the same breath. The moon has crested the skyline now. A silver coin floating between temple columns and rooftop chimneys. Its glow slides across Rome like spilled milk, soft, slow, pooling in corners no sunlight ever touches. The city hushes, but it never fully quiets. Rome whispers at night, and if you listen closely, it always has something to say. You walk the narrow path home, avoiding the main roads, slipping through passageways where laundry still hangs limp and forgotten. There's a dog curled beneath a broken statue, tail twitching in a dream. You tiptoe past, unwilling to wake either of them. In one alley, you pass a group of women returning from a shrine. They carry baskets half filled with leftover offerings, wilted flowers, broken candles, small clay figurines worn smooth by 100 prayers. They speak in low voices, half laughing, half wishing. One of them touches your arm briefly as she passes and says, "May your home be warmer than your sandals." You smile. You're not sure if it's a blessing or a joke. Probably both. You take the back stairs to your insula, stepping carefully to avoid the creak you know will wake the neighbor with the cough. Your hands trail along the wall, fingers brushing against the peeling plaster and exposed brick like you're reacquainting yourself with an old friend. The staircase smells like vinegar and boiled wheat, possibly because someone down below is still cooking, or fermenting, or both. At your landing, a faint flicker of light spills out from under the door across from yours. You pause. The door opens a crack. It's Tullia, the widow with the eyes that see too much and the voice that never rises above a whisper. Her hair is tied back with a strip of old linen. Her sleeves are rolled to her elbows. Her hands are stained with flour. She holds out a small bundle of something warm and folded. "Flatbread," she says, still soft. You take it. The warmth seeps into your palms like an apology you didn't know you needed. "Thank you," you say. She nods, already closing the door. "It's better than arguing with the gods," she murmurs. You're not sure what she means. But again, this is Rome. Some things are meant to linger unanswered. Inside your own room, the air is still. Your lamp sputters once, then steadies. You place the flatbread on the stool and unwrap it slowly. It's simple, just flour, salt, and a trace of oil, but it smells like kindness. You sit on the edge of your mat and eat with your fingers. The edges are crisp. The center is soft. It sticks to your teeth in the way that makes you feel full before you're finished. You tear the last bite in half and set it beside your household shrine. A small offering, not to ask for anything, just to say, "I remember." After a while, you rise and pour water from the jug. You rinse your face. The water is cold. It shocks you into awareness. just enough to feel the room as a shape rather than a shadow. You pull your tunic off over your head and let it fall to the floor. The linen whispers as it folds. Your skin tingles from the chill. You lie back on your sleeping mat, eyes fixed on the dark wooden beams above. They creak occasionally, like old men arguing in their sleep. Somewhere outside, a cart rolls over loose stone. Somewhere even farther, a flute plays a note and gives up halfway through. And still, your mind drifts. You think of Julia's eyes in the marketplace, the basil crushed in her fingers. You think of the chalk dust rising from the classroom slate. You think of the child chewing lettuce like a sacred act, of the soldier who didn't get to choose, of the teacher who did. You think of Rome, not the Rome in scrolls and speeches, but this one, the one in cracked stairs and borrowed bread and feet that hurt from walking. The Rome that doesn't show up in histories but wraps itself around your ankles anyway. Quiet, constant, inescapable. Your body is tired, not just from walking, but from carrying the weight of the day, of knowing things you can't fix, of forgetting things you meant to hold tight. You reach for the lavender sprig still tucked beside your mat. You bring it to your nose and inhale. The scent is faint now, but it's enough. You close your eyes. Your last thought before sleep. How remarkable it is that the city still stands. Not just the walls or the aqueducts, but the people. The ones who sweep, who barter, who remember names, who leave the last bite of bread near a flickering flame. And just as your breath begins to slow, you hear it, faint, familiar, soothing, the sound of rain starting again on the tiles above. Rome breathes, so you do too. The next morning arrives without ceremony. No trumpets, no dramatic light filtering through sacred arches, just the quiet shift from darkness to a muted gray-blue. Like the city blinking slowly back into consciousness. You wake to the soft hiss of fabric moving somewhere above you. Someone's shaking out laundry, or maybe a dream. Your body groans its way upright, one joint at a time, shoulders stiff, spine resisting like a cat being asked to move. You rub your face, catch a trace of lavender on your wrist. And remember, oh right, last night you actually slept. Not just drifted, not just dozed, slept. You rise and open the window. Rome is already ahead of you. Again, the street below churns with the usual suspects, bread carts, loud fish sellers, neighbors yelling good morning like it's a threat. Two boys chase a dog. The dog is winning. A woman carries a basket of turnips like it holds state secrets. The sky is clean, for now, the rain having scrubbed it overnight. You dress slowly. Tunic, sash, sandals. Your left sandal has a strap that never stays tied. No matter how many knots you offer it, you tie it anyway. Some rituals are more about hope than results. Downstairs, your landlord is already arguing with a painter over whether the wall needs color or just dignity. You sidestep them with a muttered greeting and escape into the morning. Today's goal? Find work. Maybe, if the day allows it. You pass the forum, bustling again. More words than sense flying through the air like overfed pigeons. You don't stop. You don't have the patience for senators play-acting virtue today. Instead, you veer toward the warehouse district. This part of the city smells of olive oil, rope, sweat, and that slightly metallic scent of people who've lifted one too many amphorae in one too many lifetimes. You've worked here before, moved crates, counted scrolls, sorted cargo for ships sailing out through Ostia. A man you recognize, Cassius, with the missing thumb, waves you over. You still got two good arms? He asks. You nod, mostly. He tosses you a rope, then ties something down, and just like that, you're useful. The next hour is muscle work. Stacking, shifting, hauling. The crates are heavier than you remember. Or maybe you're older than you admit. Your arms burn, your palms sting. You catch a splinter under your nail and curse softly in 4 languages. But you don't stop. The rhythm is oddly comforting. The world narrows down to tasks. This crate goes here. That basket stays there. This stack shouldn't fall over. That man is definitely lifting with his back and will regret it by nightfall. Cassius passes you a small flask of watered wine at midday. You drink, and it tastes like vinegar married to a suggestion of grapes. You thank him anyway. He nods and says, "Worse things to taste." By the afternoon, you've earned enough coin for a simple meal and a tired smile. You wander back toward the market, not the one from last night, but a smaller, quieter square where old women sit like queens behind piles of leafy greens and bread so dry it could be weaponized. You trade your earnings for a loaf, a handful of dates, and what you hope is cheese. You eat sitting on the edge of a fountain, letting the cold stone pull heat from your back. The dates are sweet, the bread tougher than your conscience, and the cheese, suspiciously tangy. You chew carefully. Beside you, two older men play dice on the lip of the fountain, their conversation swinging between philosophy and complaints about grandchildren. One of them accuses the other of cheating by invoking Minerva's name. The other claims he's blessed by Fortuna, and therefore cannot lose. You think, they're both wrong. No one wins consistently in Rome. They just survive longer. You finish eating and stretch. Your stomach is full. Your legs feel like someone else's. You decide to walk for a bit. Not toward home, not toward anything in particular, just in motion. You find yourself near a temple, one you haven't seen before. It's small, nestled between two residential buildings. Its entrance barely wider than your shoulders. Inside, the air is still, cool. The scent of melted wax and damp stone hangs like a curtain. You stand there for a moment, unsure why you entered. The god here is one you don't recognize. A minor one, maybe, the kind that tends to doorways or boundaries or forgotten spaces. You place a date on the altar anyway, just in case. Historians still argue how seriously Romans believed in their gods, whether it was faith or habit or politics or fear. But standing here now, palms open and silent, you think belief doesn't always need to explain itself. Sometimes it's just the act of stopping, offering, listening. When you step back outside, the sun has begun its slow descent behind the rooftops. The light shifts, shadows stretch, someone laughs in the distance. A sharp, clean sound that cuts the day in two. You walk home with sore arms, empty hands, and a head that feels less full. Not quiet, exactly, but cleared. At the insula, Julia is sitting on the steps, braiding her hair. She looks up as you pass. "You lived," she says. "Barely," you reply. She tosses you a fig. It hits your chest and falls into your lap. You don't bother catching it. She grins. And just as you reach your door, sandal strap loosening again, a gust of warm air swirls up from the stairwell, carrying the scent of bread, sweat, and the faintest trace of lavender. You smile. You're home. Evening settles like a thick velvet curtain over the insula. You light your oil lamp, its wick catching with a reluctant flicker, casting the room in a soft, wavering glow. Shadows stretch long across your walls, turning cracks in the plaster into winding rivers, and every little object into something with secrets. Your back rests against the wall, legs stretched, the floor cool beneath you. You can hear the city beginning its slow unwind. But the peace is short-lived. A knock at your door. Soft, hesitant, then a pause, then another knock, this time less polite. You open it to find your upstairs neighbor. Marius, mid-40s, smells like cabbage, owns exactly one tunic. He holds a clay cup in one hand and a sheepish look in the other. "The toilet's backed up," he says. You blink. "Again?" He nods. You both stare at each other for a beat too long. Then you sigh and grab your shawl. Some problems are too communal to ignore. Downstairs, the latrina is, in fact, backed up. Again, the little trickling water channel that's supposed to keep things flowing is doing its best impression of a stubborn puddle. The sponge on a stick bucket is floating a little too enthusiastically. Marius groans. You make a noise that's somewhere between resignation and a prayer. Rome's public sanitation system is legendary, or so the poets claim. The aqueducts, the sewers, the bathhouses, they're marvels of engineering. But when you're ankle-deep in someone else's breakfast, the poetry fades fast. You grab a long-handled ladle and begin prodding at the blockage like you're dueling a very sluggish monster. Marius lights a second torch. The flames flicker across the marble bench, casting dancing shadows on the graffiti-covered walls. Someone has scratched a message beside the hole. Mercury sees all. Comforting. After a few grunts, a splash, and one unfortunate moment involving your sandal, the blockage gives way with a slow, gurgling sigh. Water flows again. Sort of. You step back, victorious, and immediately vow to never speak of this evening again. Marius claps you on the shoulder. First drinks on me tomorrow, he says. You nod. It better be the good vinegar. You return to your room smelling faintly of triumph and tragedy. You pour water over your feet, over your hands, over your memory. You change into your cleanest tunic, still slightly damp from yesterday's rain, and sit by the window to catch the breeze. From here, the rooftops look like a tide of warm, uneven waves. Tiny lanterns flicker in the distance, each one a whole world. Someone eating, someone singing, someone trying to remember the face of someone they haven't seen since the war. You watch the lights with the same stillness you give to fires, never sure why. Just knowing you must. Then comes the knock. Not at your door this time, but across the alley. A man appears on the rooftop opposite, carrying a jug and 2 cups. He pours, hands one to someone still cloaked in shadow. They laugh. Just once. It echoes off the walls like birdsong. You don't know them, but you recognize the ritual. You lie back, arms behind your head, staring at the beams above. They creak gently with every shift of wind. And you wonder how many stories they've heard. What was said under them? What was whispered? What was promised and broken? You think about plumbing, about how even the gods of this city, with all their altars and incense, couldn't stop the occasional overflow. And somehow, you find that comforting. Even Olympus has its leaky pipes. Historians still debate whether Rome's sanitation really kept disease at bay or simply disguised it under clever stonework and civic pride. You think they're missing the point. Clean or not, the system gave people something to share, something to fix together. Even if that something is unpleasant. And there's something humbling about squatting next to your neighbor, shoulder to shoulder, arguing over which way the sponge should go. As the night deepens, your body softens, your breath slows, the day's dirt remains under your fingernails, and your sandals are still damp, but your mind begins to drift. You hear a woman upstairs humming. Someone drops a jug. A child cries once, then falls silent. You inhale deeply. The air is thick with basil, ash, and leftover stew. You close your eyes, and just as your thoughts begin to unravel into the strange tapestry of dreams, your stomach grumbles once, reminding you that life, no matter how philosophical, always comes back to something real, something human. You smile, and fall asleep to the sound of the sewer, still flowing just barely beneath your feet. Tonight, the streets pulse with a different kind of energy. There's something in the air, charged, festive, a tension woven with laughter. You step outside your door and immediately feel it on your skin. The way you feel summer heat before you see the sun. Torchlight flickers brighter than usual. Voices rise in messy chorus. Somewhere close, a drumbeat thumps against the walls like a distant heartbeat gone wild. You tighten your sash and follow the sound, pulled forward by instinct and curiosity and the sweet, cloying scent of honeyed wine. You turn onto a side street and there it is, a festival. Not a grand one, not the kind that fills the forum with priests and processions. This is a street festival. Local, loud, beautifully chaotic. People spill from doorways, alleys, rooftops. They wear feathers in their hair, colored sashes over their tunics, bits of painted cloth that flap like banners in the wind. You catch sight of a man dancing on a barrel, wearing a mask with one eye and two noses. A child throws rose petals into the air like a tiny, Chaotic priest. A dog runs past with what is either a sausage or a very short torch in its mouth. The crowd erupts around it. You laugh. You can't help it. Someone hands you a cup. It's warm, sweet, sticky, possibly dangerous. You drink it anyway. The liquid slides down your throat like velvet, then punches you squarely in the stomach with something sharp and herbal. You blink. Your lips buzz. Your teeth feel poetic. You drink again. These festivals happen often, too often, depending on who you ask. Some celebrate gods, other seasons. Some just celebrate survival. This one? You're not sure. Maybe it's for Flora, maybe Bacchus, or maybe it's for the neighborhood baker's third cousin who returned from Gaul with 3 toes and a new tattoo. Doesn't matter. Rome doesn't always need a reason to celebrate. It just needs a mood. You drift further into the crowd, weaving between dancers, dodging thrown figs, and accidentally bumping into someone who smears your shoulder with flour. They grin. You grin back. Somewhere, a group of musicians plays pipes and claps and bangs something metallic with enormous pride. A man in a toga yells the name of a long-dead general and tries to climb a cart. The cart disagrees. He topples into a pile of garlic. A cheer erupts. Garlic rains into the crowd. You bite into a clove out of sheer momentum. It's aggressive. You cry a little. Someone offers you bread in sympathy. You find yourself near a fire pit, where flatbread cooks on hot stones. A woman flips each piece with a practiced hand, her face smeared with ash, her eyes bright. You ask for one. She nods. You pay. She hands it to you with a wink and the words, "May this be the best mistake you eat tonight." It's too hot, too oily, too good. As the fire crackles, someone begins a song, low and slow at first, then rising. A call and response. One line, then another. The crowd joins in. You don't know the words, but your mouth starts shaping them anyway. The melody coils around you like ribbon. It's old, older than the walls, older than memory. Maybe it was sung in fields, maybe in temples, maybe by people who danced just like this before the city ever had a name. You move with them, not dancing exactly, just moving, swaying, clapping. The wine in your veins hums a second rhythm. Your heart matches it. For a moment, you are not tired. You are not worried. You are just one body in a sea of celebration. Historians often puzzle over the purpose of Roman festivals, whether they served religious devotion or just a means to pacify the masses. They argue about origins, calendars, gods, but they forget the human part, the sweat, the music, the heat of the fire. The way strangers become neighbors. If only for an hour. A woman near you paints a mark on your forehead with crushed berries. A red streak. You nod in thanks. She moves on without a word. The mark tingles. Someone hands you a feathered mask. You put it on. The world shifts. Voices muffle. Light blurs. Your face is hidden, and you feel free. You dance more. Laugh louder. Say something you wouldn't have otherwise. Someone else in a lion mask spins past you. Arms wide. You nearly trip. You nearly don't care. Time melts. Eventually, the music slows. People peel off like petals from a flower. A few linger near the fire, telling stories you can't quite follow. You take off your mask. Your forehead itches. Your cup is empty. You sit on a step and watch the fire shrink to embers. Julia appears beside you, barefoot, holding a wilted flower and a broken sandal. You missed the goat part. She says, "I always miss the goat part." You reply. You sit together in the warm dark, the air thick with smoke and laughter still clinging to the stones. "You ever think Rome just wants to be happy sometimes?" she asks. You nod, even if it forgets why. She leans her head on your shoulder. And just as your eyes begin to close, you hear someone whisper the start of another song. Soft, slurred, ancient. Rome sings itself to sleep. You wake up not in your bed, not even on your mat, but on a step, a real, actual stone step. Your shoulder is sore, your mouth tastes like old grapes, and your left sandal is missing. The sun hasn't risen yet, but there's enough early light to paint the rooftops silver. Julia is gone, so is the mask, so is the flower she held. You sit up slowly, feeling like your bones have been rearranged by a playful but inconsiderate god. Your knee cracks, your back whines, your stomach rumbles, your head hums like it's holding onto a song it doesn't want to forget. Somewhere nearby, a rooster crows with overconfidence. You stand, barefoot on one side, sandal on the other. You make your way toward the barracks. Not because you're a soldier, but because the soldiers are marching. And even if you're not one of them, it's hard to live in Rome without feeling them in your bones. They march every morning, like clockwork, boots on stone. Shields clinking, voices sharp and clipped. You hear them long before you see them. That rhythm, that discipline, that undeniable presence. You turn a corner and there they are. Dozens of them, lined up, backs straight, faces forward, some young, some weathered, all carrying the same silent weight behind their eyes. They don't move like men who could fight. They move like men who will. You lean against a wall, arms crossed, watching. A centurion barks an order. The line shifts. The sound is sharp, beautiful in its precision. Shields slap thighs. Sandals strike pavement. One unit moves forward in perfect harmony, turning as a block. Not one man breaks rhythm. Rome's power isn't just in its stone or its gold. It's here, in the dust kicked up by disciplined feet. In the way one man becomes 20. 20 becomes a legion. And a legion becomes a message written across continents. You see one recruit falter slightly. Not enough to draw notice, except from the centurion, whose glare could strip bark from a tree. The boy stiffens, corrects. The line continues. Not all soldiers are Romans by birth. Some serve for citizenship, others for coin, some because they don't know how to do anything else. Historians still argue whether the Roman army was more machine or more community. Standing here, watching these men breathe in unison, you suspect it's both. You've never been a soldier. You've never held a gladius. But the echo of Rome's might follows you. Every day, in the roads, the laws, the structure, even in the silence that follows every order barked in Latin. The unit finishes its drill. They break formation. Not with chaos, but with quiet precision. Some head toward the baths, others toward their barracks. One or two peel off, laughing softly, punching each other's shoulders like brothers who've survived something together. You walk on. The training field gives way to open ground. You pass a group of boys playing at war, wooden swords, makeshift helmets, wild yells that would terrify no one but still ring proud. One of them holds a shield twice his size and declares, "I am Marcus the Invincible." He immediately trips. You help him up. He scowls. You grin. Even Marcus fell. You say, "What matters is getting back up." He considers this like it might be worth engraving on something. Then runs off. You head down toward the Tiber, hoping to find your thoughts again. At the river, boats rock gently in the shallows. Traders shout. Rope creaks. Fish smell like they've been planning their revenge. The city may sleep lightly, but commerce wakes early. You find your missing sandal stuck in a mud bank near the edge. How it got there is unclear. You rescue it, rinse it in the river, and try not to imagine what else is floating in that water. You put it back on. Now both feet are equally uncomfortable. Balance. As you sit, letting your legs dangle over the embankment, you watch a patrol pass along the opposite shore. They don't look your way. They don't need to. Their presence is enough. The message is clear. Rome is watching. Rome is listening. Rome is armed. But you're not afraid. Not really. Their boots may keep the peace. But it's people like you who give the city its soul. You think of Julia, of her laughter last night, of her leaning into the music without hesitation. She's braver than the soldiers. In some ways, at least more honest. You toss a pebble into the river. It plunks, disappears. The ripples vanish almost instantly. Nothing in Rome stays still for long. And just as you prepare to head home, to stretch your legs, maybe find a dry tunic, you hear the whistle of a fife. One soldier, walking alone, head down, playing a slow, winding tune on a simple wooden pipe. It's a lullaby, or a prayer, or both. You follow him with your eyes until he disappears into the haze of morning. Rome is quiet again, for now, and you begin the long walk back. Through the smell of fish and sweat and pride. Through the dust of the training fields and the soft flutter of feathers in the market stalls. Past men who march because they must, and those who simply keep moving because that's the only thing left to do. The sun is high now, no longer soft or forgiving. It presses down on the rooftops and stone streets like a hand made of fire. Shadows shrink into corners. Sandals slap louder. Rome squints. You're back in the city's tighter folds, where every alley is a funnel for heat and sound. The kind of heat that seeps into your bones and makes even your thoughts feel sticky. You lean against a wall. Briefly, forehead resting against cool brick, listening to your pulse echo inside your skull. Your body is tired, and not just in the way that says, I worked today. More in the way that says, I have been working all my life. Rome will do that to you. It wears you down so slowly. You don't notice until you catch yourself sighing for no reason. You head toward the cemetery. Not out of morbidity, but because it's quiet. The necropolis lies just beyond the southern gate, nestled beneath rows of cypress and crumbling boundary walls. Not a place of sadness. Exactly. More like permission. Permission to stop talking. To stop pretending you have energy. To just be. You pass under an arch where the brick is so old it might remember you. A breeze picks up, carrying the dry scent of sun-baked earth and crumbling mortar. You breathe it in. The path curves. Stone tombs rise around you, some grand, some plain, some broken open like eggshells. You walk slowly. You read names carved into the rock, most half-worn, half-forgotten. Marcia, Tiber IVS, Livia, a child named Lucius, dead before age 7, a merchant who wanted to be remembered for his honesty, a mother who asked only for peace. You sit on the ledge of a square tomb shaded by vines. The stone is warm. You rest your hands on your knees. Your spine aches. Your breath slows. In the distance, you hear a flute, not close, not sharp, just a few notes dancing over the headstones like drowsy birds. You don't turn to find the source. You just let it move through you. The Romans believed deeply in honoring the dead, not just with burial, but with memory, offerings, visits, coins for Karen, milk for infants, wine for warriors, bread for everyone. You didn't need to be a hero to deserve remembrance, just human. Historians still debate how much the afterlife mattered to Romans. Did they believe in literal fields of Elysium? In spirits lingering by doorways? Or was it just about legacy, what you leave behind when your sandals no longer walk these roads? You take the last bit of your bread from earlier and break it in half. One piece for your mouth. The other, you leave on the tomb beside you. For someone who maybe liked bread. Once. The sky above is bright but not cruel. The sun filters through leaves, casting shifting lacework onto the stone. A lizard skitters past your foot. You don't move, neither does it. For a moment, you both understand what it means to stop pretending. You close your eyes. Your mind drifts. You think about all the people you've passed in this city who will never know your name. The faces you've seen once, or 100 times, and will still forget. The ones who scrub marble floors, who sweep ash from temple stairs, who count coin, carry water, light lamps, tie herbs with twine, and then, you think, you're one of them. You don't appear in history scrolls. No statues, no speeches, but still, you live, you love, you laugh, you dream. That has to count for something. You open your eyes again and the sun has shifted slightly. A few bees buzz lazily near a patch of purple flowers growing from a crack in the wall. A bird hops across a gravestone. Someone behind you coughs and keeps walking. You stand, slowly, carefully. Your knees ache in the way that tells you you've been still too long. You stretch your arms overhead. Something pops in your back. You sigh. The breeze agrees. You turn and head back toward the gate. The city greets you again, not with a roar, but with a murmur. The hum of life. The press of movement. A woman balances a clay jar on her head. A man carries firewood like he's holding the weight of Rome itself. A child drops a fig and cries like the world ended. You keep walking. And just as you near your insula, the smell of rosemary hits you. Tullia is cooking again. You grin. Death may sit quietly at Rome's edge. But life always comes home hungry. Evening again. Not the loud, laughing kind. Not like the festival. This one comes quietly. On padded feet. As if not to disturb the dust in the air. The streets stretch longer in the amber light. Shadows curl in doorways like cats. The city exhales through its rooftops. And you, once again, are walking home. Your tunic sticks a little at the back. Your shoulders droop, but your belly's warm with Tullia's stew, lentils. Mostly, with a few miraculous bits of carrot and something smoky that might have once been meat. She handed it to you with a nod and exactly 3 words. You look thin. Classic Tullia. You climb the stairs to your insula slowly. One hand trailing the plastered wall for balance. The same scratch in the paint catches your finger. A mark you've passed 1,000 times. It hasn't changed, but you have. Inside, your room is dim and cool. The shutters are cracked just enough to let in the sound of Rome breathing. Distant dogs. Distant sandals. A flute, maybe, or just the wind pretending. You light a lamp with careful fingers. It flares, flickers, then settles. You sit. You think. Not in the heavy, anxious way, but in the soft, wool-wrapped way that arrives when your body is finally too tired to argue. Your toes tingle. Your lower back throbs with familiar complaint. And your mind drifts. You think of the olive vendor who called you noble this morning. Despite knowing full well you're not. You think of the soldier with the pipe. The boy with the too big shield. Julius' voice in your ear. Laughing about gods and goats and garlic. You think about how strange and wonderful it is that Rome, the empire, the monster of stone and power, is also this, crooked bread. Bad jokes. Fig stains on your tunic. And neighbors who yell good night through the wall. You lie back on your mat. Arms crossed over your chest like a statue of someone far more important. You stare up at the wood beams above. You count them. 5 across. 3 deep. One with a crack that looks suspiciously like the god Janus winking at you. The wind rustles the shutters. You hear someone climbing the stairs above. Probably Marcus the candle seller. Who always seems surprised to find the day has ended. You hear him trip. You hear his soft curse. You smile. You close your eyes. There is no tomorrow yet. No errands. No forums. No debates about grain prices or plumbing. Only this room, this breath, this heartbeat that has somehow, miraculously, continued. Historians still debate how ordinary Romans saw themselves. Were they proud cogs in a great machine? Or barely holding on spectators of something too big to grasp? The truth is probably neither. Or both. Or something messier in between. But you were here. You lived. Not as a senator. Not a god. Just a person. Who laughed. Who ached. Who spilled wine and got sunburned and knew exactly where the best bread stall was. 2 streets from the baths. On the left. You are Rome. In all its sweat. In dust. In starlight. And just as your body begins to surrender. Bones melting into the mat. Lips parting in a breath that's more of a sigh. You feel a moment of quiet peace settle like a blanket. The shutters flutter. The lamp dims. Your hands relax into the linen. The scent of wood smoke fades. And the city, vast and ancient and beating like a heart beneath you, whispers, sleep. And now, all that's left is the stillness. The kind that fills the corners of a room after the last footsteps fade. The kind that drapes over your shoulders. Heavier than any cloak, but gentler, too. Your breath slows. The tension in your jaw eases. Your fingertips go quiet. You're no longer walking Rome's streets. You're drifting above them. Watching the rooftops shrink into soft geometry. Watching the lights flicker like stars pretending to be fire. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then silence. The river still moves. The wind still thinks. But you've given permission to let go. Let go of the worn sandals. Let go of the heavy tunic. Let go of the to-do lists carved in your mind like inscriptions. None of it matters now. What matters is this hush. This softness. This breath. What matters is that you were there. Among the stone and the stories. Among the noise and the nectar. You wandered Rome not to learn its secrets, but to remember your own rhythm, the rhythm of being human. And tired. And curious. The lamp gutters. Your spine sinks. The world narrows to one heartbeat. One breath. One last thought slipping away like dew into earth. And even though tomorrow waits with its sandals laced and its streets loud again, tonight, you rest. Tonight, you remember what it means to simply be still. Tonight, you sleep.